Hey everyone, Frost here, and I cannot stop hunting Lagiacrus in wilds. I have not had this much fun hunting a single monster in a very long time, and I realized that Wild's Laggy had quickly become one of my favorite hunts in the whole series, which got me thinking, what even are my favorite hunts across the series? I've honestly never given it a thought before, but it sounded like a fun subject. Then it's a good excuse to gush about some of my favorite memories of playing Monster Hunter. Heh. So let's dive right into my 10th favorite hunt in the series, Kulve Taroth. So imagine this. I woke up one unassuming morning in April 2018 and hopped onto Monster Hunter World to hunt for an hour before school, blissfully unaware of any new updates coming to the game. I randomly did an Elder's Recess expedition and hunted a Dodogama. Yeah, don't hurt the boy. Anyway, after slaying that poor creature, I randomly stumbled onto a gold flake, which, to my immense surprise, led to this massive Kulve Taroth siege. I had no idea what was even happening, and it was the only title update that I ever went into totally blind, unaware that there even was a title update. Anyway, as for the hunt itself, it has those 4 phases that are broken up by the 4 rooms of the caverns of El Dorado. Now, this might come as a surprise, but I actually really liked the first phase. I found it very fun to set up the cannons and blast Kulve as she went by. I remember being so methodical about it too. Then in phase 2, you start properly battling her, and phase 3 is basically the same, but hotter. And while these middle phases weren't all that special in my opinion, we do eventually break her golden coat, which is satisfying every single time. After that, we enter the final phase in the final room, and something I really appreciate about this last room is the scalable pillar in the center. I loved switching to Sword and Shield for this last phase and spamming the plunging thrust attack and landing a dozen hits on the way down. It was so fun! And after completing the hunt by breaking Kulve's horns, we are then rewarded with the fancy Kulve weapons, which incentivized hunting even more Kulve. There was just something so special about Kulve Taroth's hunt when it first came out. It was the first of its kind in mainland Monster Hunter, and I remember that time very fondly. Moving on, we have another siege hunt. My 9th favorite hunt in all of Monster Hunter is, surprisingly, Hallowed Gen Moran from 3 Ultimate. Now, yes, all 3 of the Morans are more or less the same. However, I like Hallowed Gen Moran in particular because A, the hunt happens at night, which is such a vibe, and B, he just looks really cool and colorful. Also, this was the first monster that I remember ever truly grinding out an armor set for. I checked the armor, which had really nice armor skills, plus I just liked how it looks. So I ended up grinding it all out in a single evening, and I had a great time. It's really fun blasting it down with the cannons and ballistae, boarding its back and beating up its weak spots, watching it jump over the ship, trying to time the Dragonator on the front of the sand ship, and then finally facing the beast down in the final phase. It's a fun siege to progress through, and it often gets very tense because you've got to defend the sand ship as well as hunt the monster. A Moran hunt is rarely a race against the clock. Instead, it's a race against the ship's durability.
Oh no!
Which is way more scary to manage than time. But there's no need to worry, because Capcom knows exactly what us hunters need for that last push in such a long, grueling hunt. Proof of a hero. That's right. When that sand whale gets close to the ship, we can activate the Dragonator for a huge chunk of damage. But more importantly, the adrenaline shot and morale boost that comes with the iconic Proof of a Hero. This hunt was the first time that I had ever experienced Proof of a Hero in the game, and it plays a huge part in making Hallowed Gen Moran a very unique and thrilling hunt that never gets old. Next up, my 8th favorite hunt is another monster that hails from 3 Ultimate, Ivory Lagiacrus. You'll probably notice a pattern by now that each of these monsters has a special story tied to it. And here's how Ivory's story goes. I started the series with 3 Ultimate back in the summer of 2013, and played it for about a year and a half before eventually getting my hands on 4 Ultimate and moving on. At the time, Ivory Laggy wasn't even anything special to me. I liked Lagiacrus, but Brachydios, Kurapeko, and Nargacuga were my favorites at the time. Flash forward to April 2019, I was playing Monster Hunter Stories over spring break vacation, which sparked an urge to come back to 3U when I got back home. It had been almost 5 years and 3 new Monster Hunters since I had last played 3 Ultimate. And after Laggy's failed inclusion in MH World, I was really looking forward to fighting Laggy again. And yeah, I hunted Laggy. Lots and lots of Lagiacrus. The moment I could hunt Ivory Lagiacrus in G rank, I immediately went for its armor, and I loved it. It has been my go-to set for 3 Ultimate ever since. I liked Ivory's gear so much that I also ended up grinding out all of his weapons over time too. If you couldn't tell, I really like Lagiacrus, and that includes his hunt. Now you might be wondering, what makes Ivory different from a regular Laggy? Well, it's prettier. For real though, the most important thing to note about Ivory is that he is landlocked. Now don't get me wrong, I like underwater combat. Ivory just happened to be the land Laggy. And while on land, Lagiacrus' hunt is elegantly simple with well-telegraphed attacks, but it's very punishing if you mess up and get hit. You can't overcommit with your attacks, or else you'll probably get hit by the discharge attack. But you also can't hide far away with a ranged weapon either, since Ivory has a nice blend of ranged attacks on top of its physical attacks. I really like this curved shock blast attack, because it always arcs to our left. It's an interesting attack to try and avoid. And it, along with basically all of Laggy's moves, become very easy and satisfying to play around after you learn the tells. I loved hunting Ivory for all of its gear and learning the fight in the process, and in doing all of that, it became among my favorite hunts in the series. Alright. My 7th favorite hunt in Monster Hunter is a monster that I think we can all agree is just plain awesome. Bloodbath Diablos. My first experience fighting this thing was B-Bake passing his switch to me while he was in the middle of a multiplayer hunt. I was all, I've never fought this thing before, what if I die? And he just goes, you'll be fine, and walked off to do whatever it was he needed to do. So there I was, suddenly thrust in the middle of a bloodbath hunt, with my only goal being to survive. Yeah, the pressure was on, and it was not easy. Bloodbath is a fast and relentless monster that does all sorts of crazy stuff, but I played it super safe, only attacking when I was certain I wouldn't get hit, and eventually the other hunters managed to defeat Bloodbath. And while I only got a taste of Bloodbath's hunt, I gained an immediate appreciation for the monster, though I didn't fight it again after that. Fast forward 2 years, and I finally got my own copy of Generations Ultimate. And after playing through the G-Rank content, I eventually returned to Bloodbath. And honestly, at first, it felt pretty easy and kinda underwhelming compared to what I had remembered. The only thing that really stuck out is when it roars before charging at you with everything it has while you're still recovering from the sound. But that was kinda it. And then came Phase 2. Oh, that right there, that's the sauce. The unbridled rage, the piercing roar, and the new theme accompanying the second phase. And if that wasn't enough, it gets a new attack where it burrows underground before surging out and erupting in a massive explosion of steam. Like, dude, this monster turns the hunt up to 11. The intensity is unrivaled, and I am all for it. Honestly, it could be considered the best hunt in the series for all I care, but I have my own preferences and experiences, and they favor the remaining 6 monsters. So, off the heels of a monster with an awesome phase transition, is another monster with, with an awesome phase transition. Coming in at number 6 is the flagship of Sunbreak, Malzeno. Now, let me ask you a question. Did your first encounter with Malzeno go something like this?
He can teleport? I kid you not, that was my actual reaction when I saw it for the first time.
Now, I was already sold on this monster when I first saw him, and then they made him do that? Yeah, when Sunbreak first released, I was obsessed with Malzeno. I fought him over and over again to craft all of his armor and weapons. At one point, I even sold a Bloodstone, his rare drop, in the quest rewards screen, purely so I would have to fight more Malzeno. I was that into it. I even got the Malzeno Pro Controller. But anyway, the fight just flows so nicely. It's one of the few hunts in Sunbreak that feels more like a dance than a hunt. I'm especially fond of his tail thrust because of how readable it is. Counter or sidestep it, and then punish. And, of course, things get crazy when Malzeno enters his bloodening state, changing color and teleporting to attack you. Its other moves get enhanced as well, such as doing 2 tail thrusts instead of just 1. And if Malzeno hits you with certain attacks, like its tail thrust, you will be afflicted by a brand new status effect called Blood Blight, which slowly drains your health and cuts your healing in half, but allows you to heal by attacking monsters. So if you're good enough, Blood Blight is an awesome gambit. And it's really fun for a new status effect heralded by Malzeno, and it makes the fight even better. Malzeno's just got everything. A sleek, cool design, interesting ecology, a very fun hunt, and some awesome equipment. Hands down, one of the best monsters in the series. It also reminds me of another monster whom I'm quite fond of, but that's for later. As for right now, we've reached the top 5. And coming in 5th are the first hunts that I ever fell in love with in the series, which are all of the Nargacugas from 3 Ultimate. Now hold on. Before you go saying how putting 3 hunts in one spot is cheating, hear me out. What makes all the Nargacuga hunts so special to me is a specific attack that they all share, the Tailspin. Allow me to explain. So think back to when you first started Monster Hunter and you wanted to get better at the game. What did you do to improve your skill? Well, what I did was ask the internet how to get good. But what I found was... well, honestly, I don't remember anymore. All I remember is that someone, somewhere, recommended fighting a Nargacuga. But here's the catch. Don't attack it. Instead, focus purely on iframing its attacks, namely the Tailspin. So, I did. I slapped Evasion +2 on my set, and for like half an hour, I just followed around a Nargacuga and spent the entire time trying to iframe its attacks with a special focus on that Tailspin. And as crazy as it sounds, it worked. It clicked. Nargacuga genuinely taught me how to properly iframe attacks. Some people say Yain-Kut-Ku is their monster sensei, but for me, it's Nargacuga, and I've been very fond of the monster ever since then. Nowadays, I just love all 3 of the Narga fights equally because they all have that special Tailspin that is oh so wonderfully dodgeable. Also, Green Nargacuga has those neat auto-stunning tail spikes, and Lucent is just amazing through and through. Especially since we hunt it at one of the most scenic maps ever, the Tower at Night. To me, the maps that we fight a monster on play a key part in how good or bad a hunt feels, both aesthetically and functionally. And for my 4th favorite hunt in the series, the map was a major factor into why I enjoyed the hunt so much. This is the Battle Quarters of Dundorma, and it is the only map where my 4th favorite monster to hunt takes place, Gogmazios. Not only was this the final boss of the first Monster Hunter where Bibek and I could play together, Gogmazios also remains one of the most challenging hunts in the series for us. After eventually beating it several times, I was able to craft Gogmazios' awesome armor set. But B-Bake wasn't. He could never get a war-torn dragon's fire.
Well, I didn't want it anyways.
Yeah, I still make fun of him for that. Anyway, the hunt itself is honestly not that complicated. Gogmazios is big and slow, but his attacks hurt. The big one to watch out for is this tar laser explosion. Very big, very cool, very deadly. But as I mentioned earlier, what makes this hunt so interesting is the map it takes place on and how the monster interacts with it. There are 3 ledges for hunters to stand on, and while on them, Gogmazios will lean onto these ledges and attack hunters too. So why stand on these ledges? Because this map is loaded with siege weaponry. Ballistas, binders, this cool cannon on a cart that stores up to 9 shots, and a Dragonator, because of course there's a Dragonator. And that Dragonator on Gog's back? Yeah, you can break it off of him and then fire it back. How does it even work? I have no idea, but it sure is cool. What's that I'm hearing? You wanted even more siege weapons? Well, you're in luck, because there's still one more weapon. The Battle Quarters Piece de Resistance, the Demolisher. It's this absolutely titanic cannon that resides in the northern section of the map and gets unlocked halfway through the hunt. Ride the cannon cart over to the Demolisher and you're ready to fire. Just make sure Gogmazios is positioned just right, and...
I'll bet you think you're ready to
fire the Demolisher.
I'm ready! I'm ready! I'm ready! I'm ready!
Whoa there! We still have a few more topics to cover first.
Yeah, because in order to use this behemoth of a weapon, you first need some special ammunition to fire it. Some dense Markol. It's this special ammo that you can only get... What are you doing? No, it's not in the item box. No, it's not found on the map either. You have to buy it at the Lyceum. You don't have that unlocked, do you? To unlock the Lyceum, you need to do lots and lots of village progression. You essentially have to beat the high-rank caravan story quests just to purchase the dense Markol. Seriously, that means that you need to beat the village story to even have the ability to fire the Demolisher during Gogmazios' hunt, which happens at the end of hub progression, which is completely separate. It is a lot of work, but the payoff is absolutely worth it. Once you have the Markol in your inventory, ride the cannon cart over to the Demolisher, and you're ready to fire. Just make sure Gogmazios is positioned just right, and fire! Yes! All this effort culminating in the giant explosion, coupled with proof of a hero activating. It just feels so good! I would use the Demolisher every time I hunted Gog, and it's what made this hunt stand out to me as one that I would always look forward to. But, wait, what's that? That's right, Gogmazios is coming to Wilds in Title Update 4. Oh, I wonder how his fight will hold up, and how different it will be since he's no longer at the battle quarters. And what is that thing sticking out of his back? It's definitely not a Dragonator. We shall see. But regardless, Gogmazios is in Wilds. And you know what else is in Wilds? My third favorite hunt in the series, which was also the monster that inspired me to make this video in the first place. And that monster is Wilds Lagiacrus. What? Laggy is on this list twice? Yeah, you bet he is. And before you go saying that seems unfair, hear me out. This is vastly different from that. Laggy finally has a gorgeous modern design, as well as a bunch of new attacks for us to play around. Our hunters also have new ways to hunt down a Laggy, but perhaps most importantly, Lagiacrus, for the first time ever, got his own proper theme, and it's just beyond incredible. It starts out as a modern rendition of the Deserted Island battle theme, but then it... just listen to it. Oh man, it brings a tear to my 3rd gen eyes. When Laggy was finally added in Title Update 2, I fought him over and over again just to hear the theme. Eventually, I just decided to craft all of Laggy's armor and weapons as well, and after maybe 2 to 3 weeks and around 60 hunts, I had finally crafted all 14 weapons and 4 armor sets. And after doing all of that, I had the realization that Wild's Laggy had quickly become one of my favorite monsters to hunt in the whole series. The fight just flows beautifully, with Laggy being surprisingly capable of keeping up with our fast hunters. Its strongest attack is a devastatingly powerful discharge that deals massive damage. But here's the fun part. This attack also leaves Laggy's back vulnerable to a focus strike for additional damage. It's so satisfying to exploit that move. And after you've beat up Laggy a bit, he will retreat to his lair in the Scarlet Forest, and, for the first time in like 15 years, we get to fight Lagiacrus underwater. Sorta. Our actions are limited to just dodging, firing a special ammo from our slingers, and essentially clutch clawing onto Laggy. It's not true underwater combat, but the groundwork, or should I say waterwork, is all there. Now, I am well aware that many people aren't too fond of this section because it disrupts the flow of the hunt and can feel repetitive having to do it every single time. Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I love the underwater section. I personally like the way it limits our capabilities, because it then becomes this game of making the right choice. Is there an opening to clutch on and attack, or would it be better to pepper it with slinger ammo? The best part is that at the end of this section, the player who deals the last tick of damage gets to do this special finisher where, if you're close enough to this structure here, you get a unique animation where Laggy gets slammed into that structure and takes a hefty chunk of damage too, before resurfacing to fight back on land again. After that, you just gotta survive a little bit longer and take down Laggy for good. It's such a good hunt, and helps solidify Laggy's reputation as the 3rd most popular monster in the whole series. And speaking of the most popular monsters, the most popular monster in the whole series also happens to be my 2nd favorite monster to hunt. You know him, you love him. It's Zinogre. Ah, Zinogre. For me, Zinogre is kinda like that good childhood friend that you would hang out with in friend groups over the years. And, you know, you like them, they're a great friend, but it didn't go any further than that. But then one day, you decide to get some special one-on-one time with them, and that's when you realize just how special they are. Next thing you know, you've fallen in love with them and are going on all sorts of dates together. And then, of course, you get married and live happily ever after. To the friend, not to the Zinogre. Don't try to marry a Zinogre. Bad idea. For real though, even as far back as when I started in 2013 with 3 Ultimate, Zinogre was among my top 5 favorite monsters at the time, and has consistently been a great monster over the years. Just like in that hypothetical, he really was like a good friend that you'd see and hang out with over the years. So what about that special one-on-one time? Well, here's how that story goes. Back in 2022, sometime after Sunbreak released, I wanted to do an experiment to test if the games had gotten easier as far as RNG and grinding for stuff goes. To test that, we would need to hunt a monster in these 5 games and see how long it takes to craft all of their armors and weapons. So who was the monster we decided to test that with? Diablos. Yeah. But after a month, we decided to stop because Diablos has inconsistent weapon trees, and we switched to Zinogre instead because he actually has all weapon types. So for over a year, BBake and I would hunt a handful of Zinogres and other necessary monsters every night until we eventually crafted all 69 weapons.
Nice.
And you know what? After hunting 459 Zinogres across 5 monster hunters, I did realize just how special of a monster Zinogre is and fell in love with the monster all over again. Zinogre's moveset is just perfect. Simple, but effective. There are 2 things in particular that I really like. The first, and most obvious, is the huge opening he gives hunters while charging himself up. It's a great chance to get some hits in before he gets charged up and goes wild. And the other attack is his tailspin backflip thing. We quickly learned that if you just dodge to the left, you'll be in this little sweet spot where you won't get hit. It's really cool. Yeah, I love Zinogre. It's one of my favorites in Monster Hunter. But there is one more monster that I thoroughly love even more. But before I get to that, it's time for a few honorable mentions. Ray Dow, the flagship that never was. He's just perfect. Cool and telegraphed attacks, a nice blend of ranged and physical attacks, and that railgun attack. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff. Glavenus from Generations, another monster with an amazing signature move. That tail slice is pretty similar to Narga's tailspin. Fast, deadly, and perfect for countering. It's always fun avoiding it, especially if you can do it with nothing but raw iframes. Delameter, that big ol' snake. I know the fight is very simple, consisting of mostly wailing on a giant shape that basically only attacks with meteors and a very telegraphed bite, but still, I loved whipping out the Mundus Regius and hacking and slashing away at it. Good times. And lastly, I would be remiss to not mention the 2 obvious all-time greats, Iceborne Elatrion and Fatalis. These 2 are very special hunts, especially back when they first released, and they've remained memorable and challenging hunts over the years. They both took us a dozen attempts to beat for the first time, and the feeling of finally beating them is immaculate. And speaking of immaculate, we are at the final monster. My number 1 favorite monster to hunt is
The Great Battle.
Come, mortal beings, bring your armies to my domain. All will perish in endless winter. Ha! They were lost long ago. I will not spare you.
Foolish creatures.
Frozen forever.
Is what I would say if I was a Velkhana. Tragically, I am not. But to literally nobody's surprise, Velkhana is my favorite monster to hunt in all of Monster Hunter. On my playthrough of Iceborne, that first hunt went so smoothly. Not because it was easy, but because it was so perfectly matched. I clicked instantly with Velkhana, like we understood each other on a spiritual level. Velkhana's attacks all have very nice telegraphs and patterns that, at least personally, were easy to pick up on and respond to. If you turn sideways, means tail stab, dodge if you can, does 2 normally, 3 when enraged. sometimes ends in a tail thrust. If she dashes away and faces you, that's a breath attack. Dodge to the side. If she rears up her head, she arcs the beam. Either clutch onto her face, or pray you can iframe it. If she looks up and bellows, she's summoning the icicle rain. Stay moving until it stops. And if she flies up into the air and looks down, that's her diamond wave. Time your roll with the waves to get past. Now these are just a few examples. There is plenty more I could talk about. The thing with Velkhana is that she's not just a monster that you merely hunt. Oh, no, no, no. With Velkhana, it is a dance. You get into this rhythm of the hunt. Velkhana's move, your move, back and forth. There are very few monsters where hunting them feels more like a dance than a hunt, and Velkhana has been the best of the best. Velkhana is my favorite monster to hunt, not because of a specific attack, not primarily because the theme is really good, not because the hunt is just a spectacle, not because of the special features of a hunt, not because of a special memory attached to it, and not because I gained appreciation for it after hunting it hundreds of times. No, Velkhana is my favorite monster to hunt because it is simply a fun, high-quality, beautifully balanced hunt. Simply splendiferous. So there you have it, my top 10 favorite hunts in Monster Hunter. Probably. My opinions can change like the seasons in the Forbidden Lands. I started this whole thing 5 months ago. Yes, 5 months for one video, and I'm already second-guessing myself here. But, too late now. I just want this done. Especially because Gogmasios comes out in Wilds in just 2 weeks, and I am so excited for that. But until then, what are your favorite monsters to hunt in all of Monster Hunter? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching, everyone. Be cool, stay frosty.